Okie doke, everybody. We are taking a look at, we're asking the question, does the 80s classic, sport comedy classic, hold up? Before I get into the specific details, I think as we look at this movie, we've got to keep three things in mind. One, we have to be aware that it was shot in the late 70s. It was the National Lampoon crew, and so they were all high. They were all coked up. This is a well-known thing, well reported on later, so just keep that in mind. Keep that in mind when you're judging this film. High AF. That's what the kids say nowadays. What else? Another little tidbit. This kills me to this day. And it didn't quite get it when it came out, but now I'm like, really? John Dykstra of Star Wars fame, who did all the practical special effects, the animatron, all that stuff, all the modeling, like he was the main guy. He did the gopher, or, you know, perhaps as some might say, the kangaroo in this film. And last but certainly not least, again, important to keep in mind when we're thinking about this one, there is a character, and not just any character, a main character named Maggie O'Hooligan, which just kills me. All right, what else? What do we got to say about this flick? All right, everybody, this is sports movie from IMDb. An exclusive golf course has to deal with a brash new member and a destructive dancing golfer. It was directed by Harold Ramis, written by Brian Doyle-Murray, Harold Ramis, and Doug Kenney, who you might remember we looked at the film. Oh heck, Jim, what was it called again?
A Stupid and Futile Gesture.
Thank you. The story of Douglas Kenney as he helped create one of the co-founders of National Lampoon. It starred Chevy Chase, Rodney Dangerfield, Ted Knight, Michael O'Keefe, Sarah Holcomb, who played the, Maggie O'Hooligan, and Bill Murray. But there was more. We've got like a whole bunch of kind of named comic actors there, and this kind of killed me, Jim. What was her character's name was Lacey Underall, dear Lord. Cindy Morgan, who was also in Tron. For some reason I never put that together. Anyway, so moving forward, let's get into the so that's kind of the gag of the film. Let's and really it is, as much as it might talk, the golf course is kind of a character. It would be if National Lampoon had done an upstairs downstairs. That's kind of, I think, the best way. I suspect it was pitched that way. It'd be Downton Abbey might be something I'd be interested in watching if it was done by these folks. All right. Now, for the social nutrition checklist, would it earn a reframe stamp? What do you think, Jim?
No.
You would be right.
Not at all.
Okay. Would it, do you think it was union made?
I didn't. Did I check at the end?
Make a guess.
It was shot in Florida, so I'm going to, Harold Rant. Well, I'll say no, just to be provocative.
It was union made.
It was, okay.
Did it pass the Bechdel test?
Ooh, I don't think so. Did two women ever talk to each other in the...
Never without a man being present.
Yeah.
And even if they did, I suspect a man would have been the subject, but never without a man being present. Then last but certainly not least, and here's one that kind of threw me for a loop, but I'm curious about your take first, Jim, before I give the actual answer, because I have declared myself the king of the social nutrition checklist. But I want to know, did you think it had a class consciousness, that there was It was a class conscious film.
I maybe I mean, they did talk, some people were wealthy and some people weren't. The kids generally seem to, like the caddies themselves, seem to come from not the richest families. So I'd say maybe, I'd veer towards yes for that.
Okay. I initially, when I turned it on, I was like, yeah, maybe I'm going to make an argument of why it gets a solid green check mark here.
Sure.
I'm looking forward to that conversation, Jeff.
Yeah.
Okay. So to answer, to give you guys the full meal deal here, it's got a score of 50%.
Half a
All
coda.
right. Half a coda. Half a coda. Yes. Damn, that was a good movie. I was encouraging a friend to watch that the other night, Jim. And I've got to call her now to get the report. But even as I was talking about it, even as I was talking about you and I and how excited we got, I got misty.
Yeah.
Damn, that was a good movie.
And now you see the preview every time you turn on Ted Lasso. It's that little Apple TV 45-minute, like, oh, my friends.
I love you too. Okay. We are now moving into let's get into the quick review, Jim.
Sure.
What's your quick take?
All right. Well, I thought, it was very funny. I've just got my little notes up here on the screen. It's still really funny in parts. The overall structure of the show, the movie, is it feels kind of a little bit slapdash and a little bit anachronistic in terms of the brash, the nouveau riche coming in and upsetting all the rich folks. It's a lot of that. You can see this in movies from the 30s. You can see it probably in vaudeville, like that the brash outsider.
I was thinking of Charlie Chaplin as soon as you said that, Jim.
Yeah, I mean, this is a sort of a kernel or a nugget of a story that goes way back. A lot of that kind of, well, I never kind of humor where you're pulling one over on the stuffy old people. But Rodney Dangerfield, I found him actually. I was surprised at this. I found him physically really funny. Like whenever he danced and stuff, he sort of instantly turned into a cartoon character. I suspect that Harold Ramis was a little bit intimidated by him because a lot of the movie, it's almost like an extension of his stand-up act. Like he'll just like walk through a crowd and hey, how about this? Hey, what about your wife? And he'll just knock down all these one-liners. The cast is pretty funny. Bill Murray, again,
Cinderella story.
Yeah. But you know what? Surprisingly, even Ted Knight, he was obviously a caricature, but there was times when he was trying to be a weasel, and he pulled this into that was sort of his Mary Tyler Moore shtick and all the other sitcom shtick, where he would be talking to Danny and he would say, "What about this?" And he would do this sort of modulation of his voice whenever he's doing something, and he was watchable. It was a caricature, but he was watchable, and it was kind of fun to see him, just sort of be that stuffy old guy. And I like seeing Chevy Chase in a non-dad role because we had just seen him in Vacation, and he's clearly a bachelor in this one, and that gave him different things to do. I thought it was kind of interesting morally, and we'll go into it, and I won't spoil it yet. But the character of Lacey Underall is not slut shamed, and she's just sort of forgotten about.
Not by the film, but by another character.
Yeah.
Anyway, right, continue.
Too. But it's not extensively, and she doesn't pay for any. There's no. She has no punishment, I don't think. And Michael O'Keefe, the Danny Noonan character, also does something and doesn't get morally punished for it. So that's kind of interesting. And that's probably straight from the National Lampoon kids. But
also the late 70s.
Yes, yeah, yeah. But it's kind of hard to hate on anything directed by Harold Ramis. It does feel slapdash. It does feel episodic. We could get into that. But was it funny? Yes. Was I entertained? I was entertained. Does it feel 40 years old? Yeah. but a couple little connecting
Hello.
scenes, I think. But can you hear me?
Okay, yep, you're back.
A couple little connecting scenes would have made this a little bit of a stronger movie. Apparently, Harold Ramis had a hard time watching it, but years later. But anyhow, so that's my take. Funny,
Okay.
Needed some work, but how about you?
You know what, Jim? I was pleasantly surprised when I watched this. I was really nervous actually about watching this again. And I'm like, oh, am I just going to hate on this whole thing? Am I just going to go, it's juvenile, it's ridiculous? It's like, no, actually I came out going, that had some solid laughs. As you said, Jim, is it 40 years old? Am I 40 years older? I was 13 when this came out. Am I 44 years older? Yes, I am. But given who its target market, it was definitely aimed at younger people. Mm-hmm. Ted Knight, and I'm going to say this, Ted Knight and his other cronies are actually what makes this movie work. Everyone else would have no one to work against. He was such a dick. Yeah. Like a buffoonish dick, but such a great buffoonish dick. Yeah. And he really committed to it. Rodney Dangerfield could have been the jerk, except that there's Ted Knight there, more than willing to match him. So yeah, I even now, there were moments where I'm like, that's just fucking funny. And you laugh at the right time. And yeah, all the things I was worried about, you're absolutely right. The Lacey Underall character, it's like, and that was one of the characters I was really worried about. It's like, and then she's always kind of in charge of her, you know what? She is slut shamed by another girl in a kind of offhand comment where you kind of know where that girl, that actor or that character is coming from. And then of course later on, well, that's spoiler zone stuff. We'll talk about that more in a bit. Yeah, it was a lot more fun than a 44-year-old comedy. Very much of its time deserves to be. It reminded me of how entertaining all these folks could be. You and I have talked about this before. Chevy Chase has become kind of a caricature of himself, but there was a time where he could really kind of own a scene. And you're right, there was, it's why I kind of mentioned how high they all were. Because there's some stuff where it's like, there's a whole shot, there's not a whole shot, multiple shots of just, why are we watching Chevy Chase's ass? Who cares? Like, it's not like it's an exceptionally good one. It's not like that's the gag. I'm thinking it's like, yeah, they didn't get enough coverage. They did not get a proper reaction. They're just like, that's good enough. But I also saw where Harold Ramis, and I felt differently about any of the times when these actors were really starting to chew up the scenery, especially Rodney Dangerfield. It's like, there are times, especially in something like this, that is kind of has a story, but kind of doesn't, where it's like, just follow the laughs. People, when they leave, they're not going to go, wow, I really feel like I changed the arc of the story, fulfilled me. They're going to go, yeah, did I laugh? Yeah, I laughed my ASS off. And I think we can still see a lot of that in this film. I didn't laugh as hard as I did. I'm not 13 years old. A 13-year-old now, I don't think, like, it just wouldn't fit now. But does it hold up? Well, yeah. I think you're getting an idea. I think it did hold up, which leads me to my next question, Jim. what did you think it was worth people's time? I certainly do. You know, I think even now it's worthy of watching. There's a couple of cringe moments, but
yeah, I mean,
I even think its politics was solid, which I'll get into more later.
Depending on the person, I wouldn't recognize I wouldn't necessarily recommend this to, like, my older relatives or anything like that. But I maybe my son, I don't know, would my daughter like it? Probably not. But there's a certain, it's a very set PC. It's a very
any
set
movie
PC
you're gonna do that.
Yeah,
you're gonna go, oh, you don't like, this is the greatest horror ever. Don't like horror, eh?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I mean, I could see myself recommending it, or saying to somebody, "Hey, when was the last time you saw that? Well, give it another watch. It's on Crave, HBO, or what have you. Price is right." So.
Now, if this quick review only whetted your appetite and you want to dive deeper into this film, check out the replay of this episode of Jim and Rob Overanalyze Movies. Every show we go beyond the review to get into the craft, the story, and the meaning of the films we watch. And if you subscribe and ring that bell, you'll get the heads up in time to join us and the best chat on the internet live. See what I did there? Anyway, that's about it. Thanks so much for checking out our review. And bye-bye.